So I just finished taking off the canopy here, and I did end up ordering a rear seat with a utility bed fold out, but that will replace at least these steel bars because it's missing the one that links the two anyway. It was rusted in place, at least the bolts were, and I'm going to have a job when I get the front, I forget what it's called, body off. At least right here there's a half of a bolt, and over here in the same exact spot there's the other half of a bolt. The tops came out on both sides, no problem. The other issue is if I lift this up real fast, let me show you. Alright, so now that's up in the air. The frame for the very front, as you can see, is completely shot right there in that elbow. Probably going to have to weld in some bed frame that I had laying around. Same for this side, exactly the same. You can see it's ripped through right there. That's not even attached when I wiggle that. Those are the only two spots I saw that were bad. Everything else is solid from what I can tell, other than the battery tray, which I think I mentioned last time. This is going to be covered by the seat stuff. This kit over here in this box here. So what I've done right now is rivets. See the one there missing. This is surface rust. It doesn't go through, so that's good. As you saw from underneath, this is the worst part, right on the driver's side, obviously. Removed all those rivets, even the ones under this rubber. See, even under there, it doesn't look bad at all. So I decided to come back in here, same night, but probably a different video, and remove all of the rivets at the top. And as you can see, it's already started to pop loose, the hood, I suppose, or the front body panel. I'm going to go ahead and show you me removing it. Isn't that exciting? Just have to hold the phone. If I remember right, I should just be able to pull. Oh, there's one side. Look how dirty it is. And we got the other bolt that's stuck. Lift over that. See if I could do this one-handed. And that is a body panel removed. Looks like something was nesting in the front here. Have to clean that out eventually. And looks like a golf ball fell out. So here is that very badly rusted spot. I might tack, since this is all metal, the top and the bottom so this doesn't move when I start to take stuff apart. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me go get an angle grinder, grind that down a little bit so I have some fresh metal, and I'll bring you back. Here goes the worst angle grinding you've ever seen in your life. One-handed. Okay, let's see if I can get you to on the spot. Put on some gloves. Feel free to tell me how terrible this is, because I know it is. Here we go. Look at the cringe. The plan at the moment is just to build this up a little bit. Connect the two chunks. Oh no, we got a connection. A weak one, but I'm really just trying to make a big chunk of metal here with a knife. Alright, well, that's connected. Better than it was. There you go. Example of me being terrible at welding. I'll clean it all up when I'm done. By the time I'm done, there will be a nice big piece of steel that's not connecting. I'll probably grind this down flat, put the metal up, and then put a nice bead across all of it. A thin piece for the other edge that is missing, as you can see, of this angle iron here. And it doesn't move anymore, so that's good. This is just for tonight. Anyway, well, I just finished welding, grinding, and kind of getting it to a point that I'm okay with. There's a lot of, I don't know what they're called, divots or pock marks where I guess there was rust that were water that sat and made divots. Fixed some of them. You can see I tried to do it here, but ended up with like a bubble of weld. Over here, I put in a piece of sheet metal and tried to weld it as well as I can because I suck at welding. It does support the shocks for the front, but it seems pretty sturdy now. If it breaks, it breaks. I'll have to fix it later. Same goes for here. This was a much worse weld, as you remember. Break. It was completely broken off. So I put a chunk of steel in here and sealed that up, put the weld all around it, ground it down a little bit, kind of give it some more rigidity. It's a bit thicker. You can see it kind of bulges out a little bit. I think I need to fix a little bit down here. It's not nearly as bad as either side, but not too bad. I took everything off the frame and pressure washed it. I know it doesn't look like it, but it was much, much worse. It was covered in dirt. And aside from those two spots on the front, the rest of the frame looks great. Again, battery box, we know, sucks. It looks terrible. But the rest of the frame, I even had it up in the air at one point. Looked under it, looked fine. I pressure washed the body shell. And I'm slowly taking off that metal duct tape someone put on there. And I don't know if I'll get it. I don't know if I feel like moving this. Those are just riveted on. That rubber or that plastic towel on the front is a rivet job. So this is my plan presently. It's still broken. It's missing this section here, and I can't find this specific piece of plastic anywhere. Another thing, the rear metal body looks great. I haven't seen a problem with it. I need to remove these electronics because something's wrong in them. It'd be really cool if that controller functions, but as of present, the whole frame is grounded to the motor. So either the motor's bad or something in the wiring is bad. I'm more on the line that something that the previous owner did is botched up in this contactor and reversing switch. So once I unplug everything, I'm going to see if I hook up a motor, just a series motor, directly, or a permanent magnet motor directly to this contactor, if it'll just work, or to this controller if it just works. Because I've got a few right here. These are from a go-kart, and we'll see if I can get that 48 volt motor to spin up, just permanent magnet. Simple. Don't need the reversing switch in line with it to tell me what's working and what's not. I looked at the shocks, looked at the steering. Hopefully I'm getting that. I don't have my screen on right now. Everything seems pretty tight if you're looking at the wheels. They turn in unison. I'm not seeing any bushing degradation. I did buy new bushings to put it. I will probably still go about doing that, but I mean, all in all, it didn't look too bad. Hopefully, I still haven't tested it. That rear I don't know what they call it, transaxle transmission still functions, differential. Like I said, it rolls. It doesn't click when rolling it, but again, that's not under power. We don't know what's going to happen when I turn it on. So I literally just finished taking some Rust-Oleum. That's brown. I don't know why, but it's a primer. Paint primer and rust primer. So for lightly rusted surfaces, so everything I ground down, I consider it lightly rusted at this point. Should be safe now, including the weld. So the weld is sealed up, as is that side of the weld. On both sides, anything that's metal that was exposed and is going to be covered by a lid or a hood, body panel, there you go. That'll be covered nicely now, including that, so that's nicely covered. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. Only part I didn't get is where the electronics are presently mounted. Once I get that out of there, I will worry about it then. And all the way back to this point, and I'm still... I might be able to find this, but I don't know that I care enough. It'll be covered. Next piece is to sand down the surfaces of these body panels, take off the plastics before I do so, and hopefully get them to a point where they look nice. The first piece, which is the little hatch for over the motor, just sanded it down completely, got rid of all the green paint, and covered it with the little bit of Rust-Oleum primer. Waiting for that dry. It says about 10-15 minutes. Then I'm going to try the blue. We'll see if the blue looks... I don't know. I guess it'll be fine when it's all said and done. Hopefully I like it. So this is the first coat of potential blue. I think I like it, but let's see what it does when it dries. Much better than that dim and old worn out green over there. I think the primer is really, I don't want to jinx myself. It's the first time I've used a Rust-Oleum primer. I tried their paint and primers in one before and they don't live up. But I'm not seeing any runs. Anything that's imperfection is just in the surface metal itself at this point. I'm pretty sure, because that was bare metal a few minutes ago. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry. We'll see if I need another coat. Alright, so I've got that piece drying up here, up out of the way, to hopefully keep particles and dust off of it. It really looks shiny. I like it. Okay. So this is the front cowl or body panel. And what I've done, because this was taking too long, you can see I ground away the center square with the angle grinder over there. And I got these special discs on the ground there that are specially made for paint removal. But I had some of this citrus stripping gel. It's a paint and varnish remover. And according to the box, or the back of it really, it says you can wait 30 minutes or up to 24 hours and blah, 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 for overnight stripping after applying cover application with plastic. And scrape it when you're ready. Alright, cool. What I've done is, they didn't really specify plastics, that said just plastic wrap. You know, whatever you use in the kitchen. And we will see. I coated it like a paintbrush, put it all over it. It's on every surface. Actually, this is different. You see the black marks on the already stripped stuff that I cut off? That wasn't there before. So it must be doing something. I don't know if it's useful or not, but we will see. I covered it in the plastic, and I'm going to give it at least a day. I don't know how many hours I'm going to give it because it's midnight now. But yeah, I'll see what happens then. If it works out, soon you will just see a nice blue panel, and this will be done. Sorry, my garage is quite a mess. This is just dirt from the golf cart. Believe it or not, I cleaned out like 2 days ago, and now it's all back, and now it's sanding dust too. So anyway, that crap doesn't seem to work too well for my application, at least. I could see some peeling. Actually, you can see it like here. But for the majority, I still was left with this scraper here, and it wasn't moving. The stuff was drying so fast that there was no way to get to the surface area in time. So back to the grinding. This is a result of grinding. Here, I'll show you a result of this goo, and hopefully I'm not lying. So you take this that you scrape. You can see how long that's going to take before all that stuff dries out. You know, I'm scraping. Or take this. And in like 5 seconds with one hand holding a camera, you see the difference. Anyway, there you go. A few, probably 15-20 seconds later, you see the difference. So, I hope to have this painted by, at least primed by tonight. Still gotta spray it down, maybe pressure wash it, get all the gunk that's remaining off of it. We even have down on this lip here. Apparently, you know, it's not a good practice to try to paint over paint thinner, so let's try to get it off. Anyway, there you go. So here I have it up in the air on ramen and Ritz crackers, but it worked on an empty box, or not an empty box, but a box with no writing on the side that I'm painting at least. I just put this Rust-Oleum primer, professional something on it. I thought I sanded it better than I did. I see little imperfections in it. I don't know if I'm going to, right there, kind of see. If you're looking close, I guess it matters, but I don't know, it's still a golf cart. I want it to look good though. Let's see what happens when I paint it blue. The sheen, maybe the dark color will help. Or hurt, who knows. Anyway, this is the outcome of all of that sanding. I am debating mounting it without the plastic addition at the bottom, because I don't actually know that it covers anything. It might just be for looks. And if that's the case, I don't need to do anything, and this should just work and look perfectly fine when I'm done. Alright, about 20-30 minutes later now, put a coat of the blue paint on it. Gonna let it dry with fresh air, which isn't really the best idea because bugs and stuff could land on it. But I don't know, I think it came out pretty decent for only my second time painting anything like this before, like this. It's still dry, and you can still see pock marks and stuff where, you know, where it's still wet in areas and dry in others. But I'm gonna let it sit probably about 20 minutes. So before I get any further, I want to go over now what I've done. I've painted the rear section. It's definitely not as good as the cowl came out or the little panel flap, but I mean, it's a darker color. It's okay. It'll work. It's also metal, which I'm enjoying. It should give it some sturdiness. Anyway, this is the chassis, as you've seen before. What I have done as of tonight is all I did was remove all the electronics from this little side panel cove. I don't want to say that I know that the ITS switch is bad, because everything I've found is hook up 3 AA batteries and hook up a multimeter and then test the inputs between a da-da-da and this other input. I wish there was just some simple guide that said, take these 2 inputs, you don't need a controller, see what happens between certain ohm reading or certain anything would be useful. Then you need a battery source or some sort of power source. I'm trying to not hook up power to it because I don't want to fry anything out, and I'm not sure of what everything is. So it'd be really nice to just be able to, anyway, me just ranting. Anyway, I removed the electronics. I gave this a spray paint with primer, and then coated it with some black, because why not? This will continue to be, as of the moment at least, the electronic side. So the new stuff will just go over here. I got new brake lines because this one is sheared, or when I'm under there you can see the cable, it has started to shred. Sorry, nose is getting a little runny. The next thing I've done is tested the motor. The way I tested the motor was, I remember from testing this golf cart over here that you can connect A2 to S1 or S2 to, oh, anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. There's 4 bolts on any motor, any series wound motor at least. And this one luckily has nice little directions on it. If you look at that, connect A2 to S1 and power across A1 and S2. So I did exactly that, and I do find it interesting that it sees a Textron, even though this is a Medalist. But point being, I put up a little 12-volt lawnmower battery. This one's not really the best, but it does the purpose. Watch the... and we move! As you saw. Anyway, so that tells me that the motor isn't bad. I actually had it up in the air the first time because I didn't want to go flying through the wall. But once I realized it wasn't going super fast and it has enough force to carry me at low speed, it wasn't too bad. I did hear a rattle in the bearing when I had it up in the air. I will most likely, in a follow-on video or a merged of this one at least, show it up in the air and do the same thing. Hopefully I remember to do that. Otherwise, we'll eventually have a finalized video where you get to see it running. But it does make me wonder. I've read in the past when I was fixing this golf cart over here that the axle shafts have a spline on the end, which I saw on that one, that tend to get worn, especially on a golf cart that was not taken care of, as this one was not. The only thing that was kept out was the frame, which I guess I'm happy about because the frame has lasted. Yeah, that's about all I got. But motor works. Gonna remove it anyway because I bought that motor. That motor and that one's new. So I'm gonna take that one, put it in here, put this one in there, and I could sell that as a unit with functional pieces. Unfortunately, the controller, being this is an ITS, or I don't know what else to call it, throttle, it will have 0 to 5 volt, whereas that one uses a ohm or a resistance potentiometer pedal with 0 to 5K. So they're incompatible unless I have some way to program that. That's on to the next guy to figure out. So they could put in, an ITS throttle on that one if they need be. Alright, so you're looking at the motor inside of the EZGO presently. Going to try to pull this out. Alright, and what you do is you try to lift it straight up. Oh man, thanks. Alright, so what I did is I just removed the motor. That's what the spindles look like. Or, yeah, I'm going to call it a spindle. It's the gear that sticks out that the new motor will attach to. I always found it interesting. There's only 3 bolts, 7/16, tiny bolts holding the whole thing on. I'm probably going to try to keep it paired with the other golf cart in case I'm able to sell it. Because it's functional. I didn't hear any problems with it. And this one's a bit tougher. It's a bit, I think it's a bit thicker. But I bought this one. It isn't new. It's new to me because I bought it brand new for this golf cart over here. But I swapped it out of there about 10 minutes ago, and it's just sitting here until I get it placed into this location. Alright, so we're back in the battery tray. Let's see what happens. Always heavier. Definitely heavier than the other one. So much heavier. Whew. I don't know why it's heavier, but it is. Give me a minute to not destroy my outer while I'm trying to sleeve it down here. Also my fingertips. Okay, let's get that spindle doing more of the work for me. Ah, here you go. Simple. It definitely is heavier than the standard one. That one just feels wimpy. Here, we'll put them side by side, we'll see. Alright, so look at the length. Oh, right there. So this one's a little bit deeper. It's also a little bit wider. I'm not really sure how that works, but there you go. To also not drop on the floor. Alright, question is, can I get the holes to line up with anything useful? Now, if there's a better way to do this, I just don't know it. I don't know. I don't know if I want the rotted motor. Can't get to those easily. No, I kind of like it this way better. We'll leave it so that the terminals, these, if you can see what I'm pointing at. Alright, there you go. Motor installed. So with that, this golf cart, try to pick you up without turning off the video recording. Motor's in the new one, or my new one. I ordered a new battery tray. It's aluminum. I'm thinking I'm going to get a piece of sheet metal and just lay it across the battery tray. POS. Order a new one, and it should be here tomorrow, actually. And I'm going to get a piece of sheet metal. I might even have one already on top of my shelf of extra parts. Hey, look at that. Anyway, yeah, I have metal sections, even some alongside the house. Next will be putting in the battery tray and then wiring it in. I'd rather have the batteries secure, nicely fit, have the motor hooked up. So, after lots and lots of random cutting and welding, finally got battery tray and battery or seat support out. Seat support's over here. Half of the battery, well, more than half, but it's disconnected on that side, as you can see. It's connected still. There is, somebody welded the battery tray to these uprights. So I'm having to do what I can to keep them intact so I can bolt on the new one. The issue is making that happen. So I'm using the angle grinder, I'm trying to be careful, but as you can see, I've already lost a bit of the material for the width there, and you can tell it's pretty eroded already, but I'm not getting rid of it. I don't want to spend more money. Anyway, something I just had to do was this. That is a nut, or a bolt, that had no top. And there was no way to get a hold of it. So instead of drilling it out, I took one last stab at putting a nut on the head that used to exist, screwing it or tightening it as lightly as possible to get a bit of it inside of the threaded area, and then welded it on as best I could without attaching it also to the frame. And magically, that's the first time that has ever worked for me. I was able to loosen it with a pair of pliers and get that bolt out. Or that nut, sorry, I keep saying bolt. But anyway, believe it or not, that one was perfect. That one came out fine. It's this side that was the issue. The one that looks good. Surprisingly. I don't know. I'll just take a brush to it real fast and see if that cleans it up a bit. I will try to record a little bit, I guess, of the actual attaching. This is an aluminum battery tray. Supposedly won't erode with battery acid and such if I ever put lead acid back in it. Anyway, it also came bent. so So if anybody's wondering if you get crap in the mail, yes, look at that thing. That tab is supposed to be straight just like that one. That is the lead acid. You put a retention rod in on both sides and a little plastic piece across the top, and it's supposed to just tighten down and hold the batteries in place. But I'm going to try to straighten it out, but it doesn't really matter to me. As of now, I don't have a use for it. Maybe I'll come up with something. I was thinking maybe a piece of, believe it or not, plywood, because it's non-conductive, across the top with 2 threaded bolts and just tightening them straight down so that it holds my batteries down like it should do. But that's all I've got at the moment. It'll also hide the contacts, which might be nice. That's all I got. Got the old tray out completely, bolted in these new hangers, and the next point is to take the tray, which is down here, and attach it to said hangers. So if you fall, I'm just going to have to record this or after I'm done. We need the front of it. Alright. And this one just not tacked or anything, it's just being pressure fit at the moment in here. Used the hammer over there to just tap it into place because it is quite literally a wedge in the way that it's designed. I put in these new hangers in the back. That's literally 3 half-inch bolt heads across the top, pop off. I put new ones in, so you didn't really miss anything there, and put the hangers in. The hangers also get a second bolt when the frame is back on and everything's attached, I think from the seats. Anyway, yeah, the seat bolts go through these 2 points of attach to the frame, and yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take these countersunk bolts, and they go into these little holes over here. Yours might be different if you do this. This was just whatever this manufacturer on Amazon decided. I'm going to try to film it, but it doesn't always work the best for me. So let's see. So I finally got the tray in, and all it took was a lot of anger. So if you just stock up on a lot of that, you're good. No. So down here, I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but there's a bolt. It is a self-tapping lawnmower. It's actually from a lawnmower. It's a lawnmower engine mounting bolt. Because the actual threads that were in there were so rusted that when I put a bolt in and tightened it, they sheared out. So this one size up, I forget, 9/16? Yeah. It made the hole a little wider, pulled nice and tight. It's holding the metal, so I'm thinking we're good there now. And it's nice and attached. Same for the back, front. The front left actually went in no problem, or the driver's side, depending on how this gets mirrored to the computer. That's the original bolt from somewhere else, actually. It's not super rusted, but the head looks a little bit. I suppose with the aftermarket battery trays, this hole up here doesn't get used anymore because it no longer has a lip. So that might be interesting. I'm going to see how the metal frame, metal body attaches there and make sure there's a little bit of a lip here with this aluminum right here, and I'll need to grind that down. I'm kind of wondering if that might become an issue. We'll see. That's what's left of the battery tray. So I figured before I get a little bit too far, I should show you what I'm doing as of the moment. So I'm going to create another pin because I'm missing the hooks, these little metal flanges here, and attach it down here at some point just to really secure this to the base. I've got one more over here, about halfway through. So, you saw that. This guy. See? So with that, I've got the big pieces wired. Unfortunately, I think it's 4 gauge wire. I'm gonna hope it's 4 gauge and not 6 gauge because it seems thin to me. It's whatever the 36 volt stock comes with. At some point, I'm going to upgrade everything coming into here at the battery minus and being flowed through is anywhere from 2 to even 0 gauge wiring. It's just what comes out of here gets transitioned to this reversing contactor. And from there is the stock cabling. Like I said, I'm going to get that upgraded. I've got thicker cabling. I just would have to crimp and make connectors, 4 of them, unfortunately, that are long enough to reach back there, which unfortunately I don't just have on hand because of just their sheer size and what they would cost. Anyway, so what I've done is this is the original reversing switch location. And what I thought was, well, rather than grind this out and try to figure out how to mount this later, let's see what happens if I just try to mount it to it. And it turns out it works perfectly. That distance is the SW182 reversing contactor is just within the margin of error for these 2 bolts, the existing bolt pattern, and bolts right to it. So I don't have to modify that at all. It's wonderful. I had on the previous build mounted the buzzer, so the reverse buzzer, to the back of the contactor. There's these tiny little holes, the screw holes, say them, or bolt holes. Threaded, ready to accept screws. In this case, I happen to have whatever the screw size was for that, so I just used that. And it's already wired, ready to go. What I'm doing now is wiring the small stuff. So I consider the big cabling, the stuff that goes to the motor, that's the big stuff. The small stuff is the switches, the reversing contactor, relay signals, so on and so forth, the resistors, and the diode here. Those are the small stuff. I've started to follow a diagram on Alltrax's website and also from memory. So positive comes in. This is the main lead from the battery. Once it goes through a fuse, from there, this, I think it's called a shunt resistor. Anyway, I don't want to be wrong and tell you the wrong thing, but it's a resistor and also a diode. And in that, sorry, I'm not speaking right, but the controller accepts the relay signals of both the positive and negative input. This is actually negative. I always found that interesting. Coming off of an only positive input source. I don't know how that works, but it does. And then from there, I need to run one more set of cabling up front. So this is the existing cabling. You see these 2 wires, green and blue? They run up to my key, which I don't presently have installed. It's just this tumbler here for a key switch. And I need at minimum 2 more. Yeah, 2 more. One. Yeah, I got that right. Sorry, I'm just making sure in my head that I've said that properly. Maybe 3 more. 3 more to be safe because I don't plan to ground the frame. So maybe sending up a negative terminal for USB power. So with all of this, I figured why not, do some upgrades on this thing. Obviously, I'm doing a reversing contactor instead of the little switch thing. So I bought this little kit here. It's for the TDS model, but it'll work just fine once I figure it all out mechanically and electrically. See this guy? It is a direct pop-in. You put the 2 screws that come with it in there, and then it mounts up. And it actually adds a cigarette, or not a cigarette, the USB ports. So with that, you can charge your phone, not that you need to, and gives you a nice voltage display of the current voltage of your battery pack, which is really something I wanted. On the back is standard EZGO PDS forward-reverse switching, and these are the 2 leads for battery voltage, and these are the 2 leads, 12 to 90 volts it accepts as input. So I'm going to need a positive and negative that are on when key on, not on when forward or reverse. So that's going to be an interesting predicament I'm putting myself in. But once that's done, voltage reading should happen without pushing the pedal. Any lighting and anything coming from that would then be powered by the wires up here. Theoretically, I mean, I'm just guesstimating here. Usually if you buy something, it comes with the instructions and their own wiring harness. So we'll see how that plays into this later. So anyway, let's show you what I've done. So there are these 2 rivets that I just took a 1/8 bit drill bit and just drilled through them. I've already unscrewed the key. This just fits through the back. There's like a grommet on the front with some threads. And this whole thing should flail out, and there's your plate. Behind it are the two wires for the key switch, the blue and the green. They just send a positive closed connection signal to your controller to tell it, hey, you're good to go. It's a little bit more complicated than that because also in line is the key switch, or sorry, the pedal switch, and your charging, I forget what it's called, the charging interrupt switch. But yeah, it's just a positive feed. Once all switches are closed, this sees that as I'm ready to run. So anyway, first step, take this and mount the tumbler in it. Hey, it's me again. There we go. So like I was saying, here's the thing that will accept the tumbler for the key. It is slotted and keyed for fitment. And supposedly, if I just push hard enough, you end up with a key. And if you start tightening this guy, it should start pulling itself tight. I really want it to be a little... That is a tight fit. I don't know if it was ever intended to be that tight, but it's... Alright, so that's what I was looking for. You see, there's no gap between this nut and this plate here. With that, I could put this retaining flange back on. You see, we now have fully assembled, not presently wired connection. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the positive and negative, or sorry, the positive leads, which create the closed circuit, that are already pre-wired, sitting out of that connection there, and screw this in. So with that, I now have this nice forward-reversing switched-enabled display here. It's not hooked up presently, only the key is presently hooked up. But okay, so we're actually looking at the back of that new improved key panel. And what I've done is, you see the original wires, the closed connection feed that is closed in the case of turning the key. I could have piggybacked that because it's just a positive feed. However, I wanted to run a separate cable just in the event that, for whatever reason, I don't want that positive feed. And all I have to do is pop my seat off and rewire it under the seat this way, instead of having to try to do something through that hole once the cowl is back on. So anyway, this is the forward reversing three-way switch, on, off, on. So on, middle, off, bottom, on again. And what I have is, I don't have this wired in the back yet, but red is definitive positive feed in the event of key on, right? It's going to be that way anyway. Green is my hope to be, depending on how I have this wired, I don't know if it's flipped or anything, I haven't tested. I can always do that in the back, that's the glory of having it in the back. I'm hoping green will be forward, blue will be reverse. It doesn't really matter that way, they're both the same gauge and everything. This is a voltmeter, so I have that hooked up with white in this case, I know it's weird, being my negative. White will be carrying my negative lead because I do not want to ground the chassis, just for my own sake. And the electronics within. So anyway, white is ground, and we'll be going to both the USB outlet thing and the voltmeter. And again, the positive coming in from the red line is teed off to both the voltmeter and the 5-volt USB. So anyway, yeah, now I got to figure out the back. I'll be back. So I don't have much time. I've literally got 5% battery on this phone left, so we'll see how long it lasts. As I went over last time, I have the front wired, and actually it did happen. I got forward and reverse backwards, so I flipped them once I got everything hooked up. Brief overview based on what I told you before. Blue and green are my forward and reverse inputs, or positives, depending on if I'm forward or reverse. for my reversing contactor. In this case, it seems blue is forward and green is reverse. From there, that triggers, if it's in reverse, both this solenoid and the reversing buzzer, and tells the controller to speed up to only half speed. That's all the same line, just split a few times. There is a main negative that I added, which is what feeds both of these contactors. It is this blue wire right here, which comes up, goes my main negative. It also parallel feeds the opposite solenoid over there, and it also gives me my negative feed for the dash. So anyway, I also put my fuse in line, and this is the confusing part I might have to go over in a future video. Essentially, there is a... I have not driven it since my phone died. I just wanted to catch it on camera and make sure. Sorry, my garage is still a mess, but it's because all the golf cart disassemblies and buildings and such. However, the plan is to show you that it's a little wobbly, but I think it might just be because it's in the air. But so I left it on, I guess. That's not good practice. Alright, so key turns on, voltage turns up. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted. Forward, you hear a click. Reverse, you're going to hear a noise. Reverse buzzer. And if I put it in forward, because I don't want the buzzer going constantly, watch the wheels. There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and lower this. I only have one of my batteries hooked up presently because I wasn't actually sure that this would function. It worked the first time. Alright, so this is my winch setup. Winch setup? That's the right word. It is not a winch. And move all our recycling boxes out of the way to mind my mess. There we go. Let us... you're probably not going to be able to see it, but sorry, again, garage is an absolute pigsty. Reverse. Will it go? Oh, we moved. And brakes. And key off. So that is a success. Now, the fun part of putting it all back together will begin throughout the week. I figured I would show you a change that I made today. Same battery, same everything else, but I rotated the controller. So this is the depiction that I found just randomly while looking at the operator's manual for the Ultrex controller here. And it says if you're mounting an EZGO TXT style cart, which has this placard or this style of plate, there are pre-drilled holes that will suffice the mounting, and it shows a picture of how they recommend mounting it. After much debate with myself, I figured actually there might be a real reason for that. It's this solenoid here, this contactor. I think it's technically only supposed to operate while vertical, or mostly vertical, and in this situation, it is vertical. Way I had it, there was no way to mount it to the top of the controller where it's pre-set to be, and have it be vertical. The negative of this, which I find to be very kind of dangerous, I might have to get some shoes for, or cable shoes. This is the battery negative terminal. This is the battery positive terminal. Do you see how close those things are? That's insane. I don't understand. And no flipping or rotating of this contactor here is going to make that any better. This is the style contactor they recommend. This is the Ultrex controller that they show in the pictures. It just seems really bad practice to me to have your negative terminal be, I don't even know, like 1.5 inches if I'm being nice from your negative terminal. What if one of these bolts just slips off? So I'm probably going to take off this outermost nut, take off this innermost nut, combine them to kind of create a torque monster to hold everything together, at least on the positive terminal. This bolt, I doubled its length, not that it matters, but it would have to unscrew quite a bit for it to pop off. Everything else, though, is exactly the same. I just find that kind of dumb. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Like, why didn't we just put the holes an inch that way? I don't know. I don't want to skip any steps, so here I am installing the front cowl. And what I've done is kind of stretched it over. There's a, I don't know what to call it, like a hanger for the plastic piece that goes all the way around and also keeps this out at the angle it is at. I was able to pull this hard enough to lift it up over that and drilled it out a little bit, put in two, what are these called, rivets, to hold it nice and tight. It isn't moving now, and it looks so much better. I ended up having to, there's a little, not a little, actually it's a pretty big thick washer that goes right here underneath that rivet I'm looking at. And what I had to do is drill out a brand new hole because the other hole broke off one of my metal drilling drill bits. And I could no longer punch it out, drill it out. Thought about welding it again, but then I just thought that's going to be a pain in the you-know-what. So gave up and drilled a hole just, I don't even know, a millimeter or two above it. And put the washer over it, put a rivet in there, pulled it nice and tight. Luckily, it's a slide hole. I don't know what else to call it. I'm sure there's a name for it. It's got some leeway, so I was able to just mount it just a millimeter or so higher, not changing any of the dimensions to how it mounts. With that, let's verify that power still flows to the front. Oh, good. Forward, good. Reverse. All right, and forward does something? Yes, it does. All right, cool. So with that, my next piece is to take that back, I'm going to call it a cowl because I don't know, body frame, and put it on the shell that is presently this, and try to do so carefully because I have exposed battery leads right there with what is essentially a metal body. So got to be careful putting this part in. And then when that's said and done, I might actually pull out the batteries beforehand, but I need to mount the charging port. This may have to come off. This is the original charging port. And I know on the newer bodies they actually, the plastic obviously, but on the newer ones, here it is. This is what I'm looking for. This is going to be the new charging port. And it looks like it expects 4 rivets or screws into the frame of the body that this hole is going to go into. So it actually comes with some machine screws. Might need to see if I can find some nuts that'll fit that since I'm not screwing in the plastic. Or I might just do rivets. Rivets might just be the easier option here. Because once this is in place, I do not plan to take it off again. And those connectors, yep, those are threaded and ready to go. That part's ready to go. And then my charger, this is going to go on to the new charger, as a new charger, I don't know what the hell to call it, it's a plug. Male plug. Yeah. So next time you see it, hopefully the back's on. Today I have focused on getting the back body panel on. I have not actually finished putting in the rivets fully under that rubber there. I did fit the seat in. I have bleach on it right now because it's gross. And I put a new hinge over there because it was missing. I also need to put the plates in, the hinge plates. And then the seat mounting is done. Follow back around to batteries when I'm done with that. As you can see, this is wet. Bleach is, I'm trying to kill whatever that is, if it is something alive. I assembled this kit for a rear seat. It folds out into like a utility cart. somehow. I think I have to put the strap on yet. See down there? Vinyl strap. So that's probably what that's for, to make it easy to open. But did anything else with it today? I put the metal piece in the middle that covers the motor on before I did any of that because it was easier access. The kit also came with the mount for the seat, so believe it or not, this is after like 3 or 4 doses of bleach and 409 and such. It has come far, far from where it was. Actually, you could tell that whatever the bleach is doing, it's working over there because it's starting to clear up in the middle. I don't think it's going to come perfect, but it's much better than it was. Have yet to really take it for a ride. I took it out front for a quick circle in my yard to make sure everything worked. I didn't have any controller issues, and that functioned this morning. When I'm all said and done, I really want to take it for a ride, and I'll video that. But this is the old utility cart still. Recycling, sorry. Every time I walk by, you see those boxes are usually in a nice pile right there, but because of my back and forth motion, I keep kicking it by accident, and they end up all over the thing, stepped on and crushed and broken. Also doesn't help that I have 2 golf carts in my garage where my wife usually parks, and a lawnmower, which I have to get out back somewhere. So it doesn't normally look like this. Usually this entire area is clear, there's enough room for a car, and my workbench is nice and clean. But with that project going on, there are tools everywhere. This is not a safe place for my kids to be, and it will just have to be. I did just realize something, and I don't know that I care. The little, there's little plastic guards that go on the back. One was broken, and I didn't feel like spending 20 bucks on it, so I never bought it, but here they are. Take a look. So, this is what they are. This is the one, I'm trying to remember which way to go. This is the one for this side, because of the curve on the bottom. And this is the one for this side, because of the curve on the bottom. I don't know. I don't know that I care enough to put them on. I mean, I care if someone's actually going to put a foot up here to step up, but with this, I don't feel like you would. I don't know. I don't like the little holes in the side, though, so I might do it just for that sake. But they need to be painted black, because one is painted silver on half of it for some reason. And they need to be cleaned. But other than that, I'm pretty sure I showed this in one of the videos, but here you go. Got a voltage reading. I only have one of the batteries hooked up right now. So my current plan is, I rebent that if you notice, the little metal flange that's supposed to be for a battery hold down. I just used a pair of pliers and it folded right back to where it's supposed to be. It's all very, as my channel is named, jerry-rigged right now. These are 3 batteries and they will all be wired in parallel. Right now I've only hooked up one for the sake of verifying that everything worked. Once they're all hooked up, I get about 150 amp hours because each battery's 48 or 49 amp hours. So the 48 volts a piece. These are from Chevy Volt. Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep cleaning. I'm not going to assemble anything else tonight, I don't think. And those would require painting. So those aren't getting on if I do decide. See how it's broken on the corner? I don't know that I care. That's going to be up under there. No, it's not. It's going to be right here. And I don't know. I don't know that I want a broken thing on there. Anyway, that's all I got. I just wanted to show, it's been a little bit, about like 3 hours since the last video. Look at the difference in that. That's just from the Clorox spray, letting it soak and sit. I'm going to have to put some sort of vinyl protective on there when I'm all said and done, but I mean, it's a lot better than sitting on mold or mildew or whatever it was. I can always just get new vinyl if I need to, but I mean, that looks amazing compared to what it was. And for your seat, still looks good. The only thing I've done in between everything was the hinge pin plates. So you see That plate's in and that plate's in. I decided not to replace them because apparently they're hard to get since they don't make the Medalist model anymore. I would have to use these guys. And the hole spacing is correct, but the gap for the spade, I'm going to call it, that sits in there is just a little bit offset improperly. I would have had to modify the metal chassis itself and maybe even take an angle grinder to it. I don't see a point. I mean, I got it to work with the old plates. I modified one of these. The one I got, I'm going to explain. The golf cart I got came with one of these, but for the Medalist. The Medalist doesn't have as much of an angle here where my fingers are. So what I did is I put it in the vise, took a hammer, and while it was viced in, tapped this piece down hard to create more of a 90-degree angle, like a Z pattern, or a hard Z, or it's like a sine one. I don't know. Anyway, and the result is that one on the far end over there that you can't see from right here. See how it's more of a bent up to replicate what the original kind from EZGO Medalist looked like. And that works. It's just a lot easier to take a hammer to a piece of metal and make it work than try to grind out some already freshly painted body and try to make it not look terrible. So I decided to paint these covers. I should have painted it down there, but I didn't. Point is, I painted it, letting them cool or dry, and then we'll see how they look when they're dry. I feel like it's still shiny where it shouldn't be. I don't know. It looks shinier than I would expect it to look in the one spot. I might have to take a... Here, I'll show you. It's probably because it's an enamel and not a paint per se. Yeah, let's see what happens. See what happens with this. See what I mean? It looks good right there. That's what it looked like a second ago. Nice and dark. That's the look I'm looking for. It's going to get dirty, it's going to get grimy. It does not matter, but if I can do it right now, that's all I care for. I'll try to move this down here and give it also a second coat while I have you on here. There we go. And that box is empty now. That was the one holding the rear seat kit, which I really have to say worked out really well. So glad we did it. The neat thing is, I'm not even going to give you the brand or anything, just one of the generics off of, I think it's like Buggies Unlimited or something sells it. It unfolds into a utility cart. So, I don't know, I just feel like it does double duty. So much better than the old rusted out bucket that I was thinking about keeping. Glad we went this route already. I can tell you that, honestly. I got a lot of cleaning to do when this is done though. There's a lot of grime and dirt, old metal shavings and stuff I had to... So, this is for an EZGO TXT 1994 forward. 1994 and a half forward. Nowhere does it say Medalist, or however you say it, Medalist. So making it work was a bit different. For instance, one of the oddities was in the directions, they say, hey, not that you guys care, but you can skip this part if you want. These holes right here and right here were already here for the utility box. And it's like, oh, well, if they're not already there, go ahead and drill them with a 7/16 drill bit. So I went ahead and widened them thinking, oh, they're already, but they're too small, I'll just widen them. Get everything hooked up. They need... The gapping was wrong. They need to hook up with these welded on plates for the, the step up. And the gap was too small these would not line up with the holes here. So I had to just eyeball it, and it worked out. I mean, everything else about this worked out perfectly. Everything. I mean, it's level. It sits where it's supposed to. It's sturdy. It's sitting on the actual frame of the chassis. Me jumping on this, yeah, the cart's moving, but look at that. Like, nothing's wobbly, nothing's wiggling. Even with all my tools up there. I mean, like, jiggling, nothing's janking. Nothing's making a clanking sound. The fact that I can stand on this, I know what I weigh. I'm not going to tell you guys. That's amazing. I can surely hold 2 kids or whoever wants to sit back there. The only next thing I need is a seatbelt. I'd like seatbelts in the back because you don't want anybody falling out for stupid reasons. The only, I guess there is one thing. I did lie. So when standing on this plate, I've noticed they must have painted it after tack welding the plate steel on top of it, because that clack you heard, or that cling you're hearing, is the bead of the paint unsticking from the surrounding metal casement. And it's going to continue to do that for a little while, it seems, but for the most part, it doesn't do that anymore. See what I mean? Like, once it did it the first time, it no longer did it again. So I'm pretty sure that's exactly what that was. Oh well, I've been up and under this. The bushings don't look bad, but I have an order of bushings already on the table up there, so I might as well do them when I'm under there. I need to do brakes. Brakes are very important. When I took it for a quick little thing in my front yard like I told you about, it needs to almost be pushed to the floor to come to a stop, and that's when it's going slow. So they're not right now. And depending on how those drums look, I know I have new drums on that over there. They should be a direct fit if I need them. So, no more spending money. This is pretty darn close to what it's going to look like. I have the roof out back, upside down on my patio to keep it from being in the way in the garage. But it's really close. The only thing I have a real question about is there's these holes here for mounting the, I don't know, the roof rack. Anyway, I already threaded them. There are nuts on the other sides that will accept the correct bolt. However, I know that they are offset from the frame somehow. And I'm trying to figure out if these are the offsets. And that's great and all, but that's only on, there's 2 bolts on per side. I only have 2 of these. I don't understand how that could work. I've got this, which doesn't seem right because it's metal. I don't feel like you would put metal on a nice painted frame. These, I guess it's not true. These are metal too. I thought they were rubber. So I guess you would put metal on the nice painted frame. I do not have 2 more of these though. That's my only thing at the moment. Yeah, look at that. Those fit perfectly. Those are probably the original offsets. So when I took it apart, I know I keep saying so, but right here, both of these holes were broken, meaning somebody had drilled them out and threaded them. Well, actually, they didn't thread them. They just put a nut on the other side and tightened it. I managed to take a nut, one of these nuts actually, and screw it onto the back of the bolt from under here, up and under here, and get my welder in there and weld the nut on. And this, I was able to back out completely without disturbing the rest of the hole. However, that did leave two other holes on each side that the previous inner had already screwed up. So I'm fairly certain I'm supposed to have 2 more of these, and I just don't. But I'm going to look it up on some pictures online and see what I find. So if anybody's saying you can't do this, just want you to know, this is what it looks like presently. I sprayed some basic Clorox bleach cleaner on this roof here. And I mean, it's not perfect. It is so much better than it was. It was black and moldy. I have not done the underside, for example. See all the grossness that is on there? That all came off perfect. I just let it sit for a few minutes and I wiped it off with a towel. I didn't have to scrub it all. But anyway, this is basically what it's going to look like when it's said and done from the outside perspective. I still have the frame guard, I'm going to call it, or the plastic rail that goes on here for a nice covered look with a metal flange on both sides here. And eventually we'll get a new carpet or a rug for it. That rubber is really worn and cracked, but I don't want to spend $100 on something useless right now. It's a little wet right now because I was just cleaning it some more. That back cushion came out perfect. Still, I ordered some more, what I'm assuming I'm going to use for this battery tray, like a fuse, A&L fuse, for a holder for an A&L fuse, so that I can mount it to the top of the plywood that I'm planning to use to hold down the battery tray. And that's all I did tonight, but looks pretty nice so far. The next evolution of the battery tray is this containerized thing I made out of L bracket to hold batteries in a sturdy manner so that they can't shift left or right, fall out of it. And then the final, I'm going to make one more for the back batteries. I'm going to make it, as of now, I'm planning 2 slots just like the front so that I can expand in the future if I need to. I don't know if that's an immediate need, but I'm probably going to do it anyway just to have it, because I got the angle brackets still on a pile right there. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put the batteries in and see if it works. Okay, so there the 2 front batteries are in their new slotted orientation. There's no wiggle. The bracket perfectly fits the space allotted, 22 inches wide or long this way. It's 10 1/4 inches thick from this front to back. So I'm just going to say front to back because wide doesn't really work here. And I also have them offset 1/4 inch forward for these bracket retainer thingies here, because if I had it perfectly centered, the bracket would not have fit as well as it has. So there's a gap that I have to account for, and less of a gap in the front. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, that is the battery setup. I'm actually really pleased with that. That came out far better than, I thought I would be able to make it happen. Oh, and they're not welded in. That is just placed in there, and future lead acid batteries can also just be put where they're supposed to be going if you want to do that. But this works really, really great. So this is the next night. I just decided to make one, because that's all I had material left, more battery mount. I swapped the 2, meaning this battery I just made, this battery in the back, and eventually I think we'll see the reason why when I get the hold down plate created. But essentially the idea is I've only got one little plastic cover, and I can't just buy one because these are, whatever the eBay seller made from a larger portion, one of these, and those alone are like $35, $40 for a piece of plastic that I'm going to cut for 1/4 of it. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. So either way, this is what I'm left with. Maybe one day I'll get another cover plate for this one, but for the time being, this is the final choice. The next portion is to wire everything in parallel with itself. So this one has to go in series to itself because these are 224s that make up 12S, These are singular packs that are made up of 12S on their own. So once I've got this one in series, all positive terminals to each other, all negative terminals to each other, make the negative connection, or I'm kind of debating if I want the negative to be the fuse or the positive to be the fuse. All the pictures I've seen, people use their positive line, but I don't see a true positive to you doing that. Anyway, advantage, there you go, a true advantage to doing that. But it would make it a little cleaner, I think, to have the one negative terminal on top to my new fuse, A&L fuse switch. But yeah, that's what I've come up with. I don't think it's too bad. And as you can see, this is a little wobbly, but it is full length that way, welded together, top and bottom. Same for the other side bracket. It's not going to just slip through. It can't twist. I really had to do a number to expand it so I could weld both sides together with one of my whatever those things are called, grips. Anyway, the Irwin grips, I used those to pull the sides together while I was able to weld it so that I could get square, because these batteries have to have 90-degree angles on the edges for them to fit perfectly. And actually this battery is like 1/8 of an inch wider, or sorry, longer this way than the normal 48 volt packs, the normal ones that come with 12S. Because I don't know why. I assume because there's got to be an end plate on both sides, and that makes up that 1/8 of an inch, which made it a bit of a tight squeeze to fit into my already existing 9.5 inches wide by 10 1/4 inches long, or something like that. But it worked. You see what I got. And I'm not disrupting the battery tray this way. This battery tray is still original. If you want, you can put lead acid back in it. This is basically the idea I had. So for all those who were following prior to this is the normal battery mount kit. Comes with this nice plate if you got a lead acid batteries that sit on 4 quads. So one will sit on each one of those flange, or whatever you call these, spades here, and sits between them and holds them in place. Similar idea, my brackets at the bottom hold them in their place. This holds them down with the original bolt with the notch in the bottom that hangs into those aluminum bars that stick up out of the tray. So with that, batteries have no movement now, and they are as solid as can be. Not going to move. I should have original clearance height, and everything should be safe. And see how I have this battery on the end with the exposed top? That's kind of what I was trying to allude to. Is I need the plastic cover so that when this comes down with force, it doesn't split these and push them down on top of each other. So the plastic cover is essential for this idea. That's all. So I'm glad I could actually make it happen, and everything seems to be holding nice and tight. As you can see, the piece of plywood actually pulled both of these batteries in line with each other, so that's kind of what I was hoping would happen. And everything should be set now for hooking up. I haven't taken it out of the box yet, but this is the A&L fuse. It's a 250 amp fuse. I don't think it's going to fit where I want it, which was like right about here, because the seat still has to fit here. So I'm going to have to think on that. But I don't know. I might not have this in line, or I might mount it over above the controller over there, up here, somewhere I know that's out of the way and safe. But I guess I could put it over here, but I kind of like having this free area just to have. I wanted it mounted to something non-conductive, but if that's not possible, that's not possible. So just the way it's going to have to be. I mean, let's test fit it. Let's see if everything clears if I leave this in place right there. I still think it's too close, personally, but that's me. Let's put you out of the way. These wires. So none of the wires are hooked up, just the batteries are in their hopefully permanent spots. Here, with that, the seat is sitting in its little, I haven't put it down yet. Let's see. That seems so tight though. Do I really want it that tight? I guess I would have to look at it from some other direction to see, but I mean, it did close. Everything seems to fit. Let me try sitting on it. I mean, I don't feel like it'd be the worst idea to have it sandwiched between two pieces of plywood. That's not the most conductive area. That's pretty nice. I don't know. I kind of like the original plan. Yeah, it's like something dug in on the vinyl. I don't know. It seemed to work. Let me try without it and see if that little bit of lip goes away. Yeah, it was teetering a little bit because I don't know if you were watching, but this side was able to move. I don't know, maybe it still does it a little bit. Let me put it back again, right in the middle. Put it back down. Let's see. See that? Without it. Maybe it does it without it. I might still put it there. I mean, that's the tallest point that would be in there, right under the seat. But anyway, getting there, getting much closer. I decided to go ahead and mount the inline fuse and mounter for it, or holder for it, and used number 2 gauge wire. So nice and secure. Everything's tight. It's 250 amp fuse in there right now. I don't think I should put more than that. I think that's a good limit. And my plan is to have this be the charging terminal, and that will be also a negative charging terminal on that side. So both positive and negative are on opposite sides, which is nice, and not worrying about it. While doing all of this, I also decided to go ahead and boot this. So instead of worrying about, I'll move that out of the way. Instead of worrying about this negative end touching this positive end, I put a boot over it, and also got rid of one of the nuts inline. So there's only one terminating nut, so it's a lot farther away by a lot, about a 1/4 inch farther. So the boot, I think, is a good idea. I think I might do the same thing with negative. Don't know yet. Don't know that I care enough to do that. I think one boot is probably enough, because putting boots on makes it more difficult to remove also. I mean, there's a negative to doing it as well, obviously. Yeah, that's what I've got right now. I'm planning to hook up the negative for testing purposes, but after I'm said and done with that, I will go ahead and put in the charging port. Just hooked up the negative side and the main power lead for all of the circuitry in the front. So I'm kind of running out of space on these terminals. I'm kind of wondering if I should, I don't know, put some of the control circuitry for positive off of this, just insert without any adapters and tighten that bolt down, and that would be my, I don't think it's the right way. I don't know. I feel like the right way might be to go off of the main junction for the contactor, but I'm not certain on that. I know that positive, this little red wire right here, is necessary to come before contactor, because that is the key on signal. But I do think it should have another positive on this end but that can't be for charging. That cannot be for charging. Charging has to be direct. So I'm also curious if charging should go through fuse. I would think charging through fuse would make sense. I mean, some sort of protection in the main. Yeah, I have a feeling that even that positive little line there should go into after fuse as well for key on, so that literally this fuse is the interrupt for all signal. I feel like that would make the most sense, but I'm not there yet. Until I get there, this is the product that I have created. Here is our negative terminal all hooked up. That's the negative feed for this line, so this is live now. And let's see if everything worked. Let's see, 49.9. Max is 50.2 or something like that. Forward, heard the click. I push the pedal. It moved forward. Alright. The wheels I need to get figured out, or the tires rather. They have flat spots on them. I'm not sure that I care. I'm probably going to swap out the rears for those anyway. We'll see. I kind of like the stance of it without the weird offset that the lawnmower tires gave it, but the lawnmower tires gave it a lot more traction, which was nice. But that's it for right now. Alright, so what you're seeing here is my crude fitment of this external charger. You can see I took some of the metal, used some sheet metal slicers, just cut away a little bit to the my left, and I'm trying to get the new RXV 48 volt plug to fit. I have successfully gotten the fitment correct. So now comes the charging. This is probably not the correct way to load a rivet gun, but it is the way that I do it. Put the head back over. Should take like one or two more of these, and then they're completely clamped tight. There we go. And the same for this last one. And sometimes they get stuck, and I used to try to pull them back out. I found that the trick is actually to hammer them in, because they slide out the back like that. I've hit a small dilemma where I thought this blue wire coming off of this fancy charger, something loud outside. Anyway, blue wire was the key switch, passageway, so all of it was in line series, so foot pedals on, key switches on, etc., on, right? That's what I thought anyway. It doesn't seem like that's reading 7 volts, 7 something volts, which I don't understand. I might have to go to a schematic to see what this is supposed to be doing then. Like, from my understanding, when charging, this thing is supposed to, the charging port is supposed to disable blue and thus no power to the rest of the vehicle. And this little blue LED or green LED over here would light up when charging. And when unplugged, power would be restored as a key switch on signal to the blue wire, sending everything back through. So, I think I've got everything wired right. I mean, everything I found indicates that gray and red go to positive terminal, because gray is like a temperature probe type thing. I'm not really sure how that works, but I'll look more into it now that I have to research this. And black goes to black, obviously. Black goes to your negative. In my case, negative would be my balance board here, which then transfers power into the negative terminal via this cable here. So in, out, I believe, yeah, that's how it should work. And from there, this monitors the cells and tries to balance the voltage coming into the overall pack between all the individual cells. Hence why each of these balance leads is here. And each of these balance leads leads to every single one of these batteries, these red connectors, or the orange connectors. So, at least I know that's how it works because I've done this before, that part. It's this key switch I don't understand, so I'll be back. So I figured I would come back and tell you on the RXV model at least, this blue wire is intended for a reed switch. In my case, I don't have a reed switch because I'm not even using the original controller. I'm using the Alltrax controller, which doesn't have that support. So essentially, on the RXV, I don't know if it's previous models all, but there is a controller off terminal somewhere. My assumption is on the RXV controller itself, that when there is a power to a certain degree on that blue wire, the controller knows not to allow key on. So since I don't have that, we're just going with the 3 model, 3 wire. This one's temperature if your charger happens to support that. So the 3rd wire is just for the charger. Red is positive, black is negative, obviously. So all in all, it is literally the same. I don't know why they changed them, if that's the case. I mean, I actually think the 36 volt might handle more power based on the size of the pins that are in there. But whatever. At least we're up to whatever the standard is now. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and put the seat on. I don't have the charger ready to go yet. I don't even think I have the charger out here on my table with me right now. No, I don't. I have this is 36 volt. That's not going to work for this anymore. I have one out in my shed. That's where I usually park the golf cart. And I'll have to go get that, not tonight, but some other day. It's not too low at the moment. I think it's like 49.7 volts. 50.2 is actually safe. But anyway, that's really all I got for now. So, I'll give you a hint of what I've done as of now. I put the, what do you call these, wheel plates on, these side flanges. So now, that's all in. I'm going to shake it a little bit. Notice anything that's rattling is in these little containers, but everything else is quiet. I still have not done the bushings, but that will be a tomorrow project. Electronically, I think electronically I'm done. I think. I mean, I replaced the pedal ITS throttle, so that I think is what was broken on the original one after having debunked everything. Everything's in. The BMS controller in the middle, it really works well. I really also wish it came with some sort of little box, some sort of housing. I'm probably, given some time, going to invest in something with a box that I can conceal so that all the metal parts and everything are not exposed to the elements. And yeah, I think that'd be the right way to go, because electronically I don't want this getting wet, and it's kind of in an area that can get wet. That battery on the end with the exposed metal toppers, those bars. I think I'm probably just going to get the piece that I said I wouldn't. Big plastic cover, cut it down to the size, and use it there. Gives me satisfaction and peace of mind. And other than that, nothing really has changed. I did move, I think I mentioned it, but in case I haven't, the key switch to the other side of the fuse box. So in the event that the fuse actually blows, everything blows. It's just, no power to anything. I guess that's not true. Power to the charging port, but no power to the cart. Have I done anything else? No, I think that's it. Tomorrow or the next day, tomorrow I'm planning to work on a go-kart. So next part, I think, is fix the charger to work with the new plug. So plug end here. So this is the new plug end that will fit in this nice little port that so nicely works. So there you go. And let's see what else comes after that. The brake lines in that box there. I'm starting to clean up a little bit, starting to get the wires together. That's the last of the jumble over here. The mess over here, aside from me having to vacuum all of the rivet ends, like that one, and the rust stains from the old battery tray. The garage is getting back to normal. I'm probably going to sell this cart as a unit with those batteries. I haven't decided on that last bit about the batteries, but it will definitely go with the motor that was original to this one, the controller that was original to that one as well, and I don't know, a slew of wires or whatever else, backwards control switch. I'm pretty sure, based on the way it's manufactured, you could wire this up exactly the same as it came over here, and it would work flawlessly. So, I don't know if anybody's actually going to undertake that. The frame started to rust. Actually, it was rusty when I got it. So, that's the negative of this. It's the Marathon, EZGO Marathon, or Malex copycat version. Marathon. The battery tray is the frame, from my perspective. I mean, you got these. This is the frame, but the battery tray bars are welded to the frame directly. They're not just bolted on or anything. So when the battery tray starts to rust, your frame starts to rust. So I really don't know. I guess that's the intended course. Let it just continue to fall into the ground. I don't know. But it seems stupid to me. Because aside from that, it's got the DANA axle. I don't want to call it Dana because I don't know if that's accurate. Very strong, honestly. Pulled some lawnmowers, pulled some yard equipment, towed around bags of dirt in that thing. Worked great. So this is the, I think it's also a Dana axle, but I don't know that for sure. I don't want to give you false info. I got to take the Christmas decorations off of it. This was in a Christmas parade around, the 17th of December? So not that long ago. So I am pretty sure I brunt those tires. I like those tires. I'll probably trade them out for these guys, because these have flat spots. I don't know. Yeah, those don't have the flat spots, so it makes sense to me. Yeah. I'm down under the golf cart, and I have disconnected the brake lines that are the old ones from both sides. I happened to lose the retaining clip for one side. They look like this. But hopefully the new pack comes with them. So first what you do is you pull a cotter pin from, let me see if I can just show you. There's a little post that sticks down through that hole there. Pull the cotter pin. Post looks like this guy, and you tap them up in the air until the post, here, let me make it all make sense. The post sticks through the hole through both of those outside retainer clips. There's a cotter pin sticking to the bottom. So what you do is remove the cotter pin, then you tap this post up out of the way. This becomes loose, at which point there's a retaining clip that goes on this little line here. And you remove that. I removed it with a flathead screwdriver, pry it off. And with that, you just simply pull out, and this wire slides out of this gap right here, and you pull it out towards you. And that is the exact same thing in reverse for the opposite side. So now, my plan is to, see how bad this is up here? Actually, it looks better for you guys. It's really dark for me. I don't know why it's so nice for you. But on the, actually down here, this is really frayed and in need of repair, so I need to go ahead and replace these for sure. They were on their last leg. It would be terrible to be out there and not be able to stop. So, first things first, I believe there's going to be 2 retaining clips. One on this guy, one on this guy, assuming they're not completely disheveled and broken off at this point. And then, I know I've done this in the past. There should be a nut here and a nut here. Oh, I don't think you can see what I'm looking at. There's a nut here and there's a nut here. You remove those, both of those, and I really don't know that I'm going to be able to remove this. This looks really rusty. I might end up needing to... I don't want to buy a new one. I mean, other than the bolt itself. The rest of it's still fine. The spring's working. I don't know. I might do a jerry-rigged and cut off the bolt and weld on a new bolt. I don't know. It depends on how much this thing costs and if I can remove that nut. Otherwise I might get a new one. But essentially, what I was saying is remove both these nuts. There's 2 little screws in there, or bolts. And then this whole flange tilts, allowing both of these brake cables to slide out at the where the nut currently is. And then you can insert your new ones, thread them all through, tighten them up, and usually you use this lock nut here and this brake nut here to adjust how strong of a braking you get. I haven't checked the drums. I'm assuming the drums are just as bad as the rest, but the brake cables for sure need to be done. So I doubt that I'll be able to do this all on camera, but essentially what I've done at this point is I was actually successful in getting these nuts and little bolts to come out of the bottom up here, and did that with just a pair of needle nose to hold up here, while also using my impact to get at the bottom, and that really made that job quick and easy. I guess the rust wasn't a big deal for the impact, for that part at least. So the next bit I did was, as of now, the 2 retaining clips I was talking about, there was one on this guy and there was one over here, and I used this exact flathead to remove them, and they look like that. Same as the back. So they're probably deformed at this point. Again, I'm really hoping the new kit comes with them. It should. So what you do, I don't think this will work for everybody. You probably have to loosen this on some of them. Usually they should be under some bit of tension, even when fully running, because drum brakes, any brakes, I guess that's the truth, should have a little bit of glide on the wheel. You hear that? That's me turning those tires. That little bit of grind is actually what you want. But it's doing that without the brake cable attached, which tells me that those might not be set up properly, so we'll see. Anyway, so the next process is to pull. Yep, and do that for this one too. Now, I have fully disengaged the brakes. Rotate on the flange, and if it works, they pop out the bottom. I'll do the other one on camera if I can. So you see the flange, you take the cable, rotate it, pull it out the bottom, and there you go. Now I've got one set of bad brake cables out of the way. I was successful in keeping this guy around for now. I don't know if that's a good thing at this point. It has a bend in it, and actually it looks like, I don't know if it's supposed to have that. I don't know if I can get it to focus. Maybe not. Ah, crap. Here, I'll try to restart the vid on this. See if it, Anyway, coming back to it, there's a squeeze here, and I don't know if that's supposed to be there. That seems odd to me. I don't understand why that would be there. That seems very odd to me. as if someone did my trick already where they cut it and they welded it back together. And that gives me a little bit of worry. This is probably original. This cart's from '94, so it could very well be that old. Okay. The problem becomes, will these nuts turn? Because they need to be able to turn to allow brake adjustment. So I'm going to try that off camera. Phone might die, but I wanted to get this in there before it does. The new clip comes with the set. See, this is the little bracket, but I don't really want to unscrew that just to keep this exact copy of just newer in place. The difference was they came with these little rubber spacers that squeeze into the space instead of using the nut and bolt combo. So those just push in and rotate until they snap in and keep it snug. The other thing I don't really like is they didn't come with the little retaining clips, so I had to bend those back as best I could. I think I have new ones, but I don't think they're they're not the exact right size. I didn't want to take a risk, so I bent those back as straight as possible, squeezed them on, and they're holding nice and tight, but I don't like that they didn't come with them. So yeah, so that's how you put the new one in, and same for the reverse. I'm gonna go do the back. Actually, that's the truth too. It didn't come with the pin, so you got to retain your pins, that sleeve, into the slot in the back, and then the cotter pin, you have to retain the cotter pin or get some new ones. Interesting. Huh. Okay, so I got the backs in now, the back of those lines. Interestingly, it did come with those. I was wrong. It came with the new pin and a new clip, so I didn't even use a cotter pin. I do have a bundle of them, but I'd rather have the, I call them body clips for RC cars, but it's kind of what they look like. Retaining clips. These, again, the C-clips, that's what they're called, were not provided in the kit. So try to keep them, otherwise you're going to have to buy a set. Or I wouldn't buy EZGO ones, I would just get the size and order them. They're probably a lot cheaper. Anything branded's more expensive. Anyway, this side was more difficult. I'm going to assume it's because once you get one side, that little piece twists to one side, and it makes it more difficult to stretch the remaining side into place because then it's under pressure. Thing I don't like, I didn't see a way around it. It's this brake line. It kind of just hangs. Like, should it have a place? I don't know. It kind of seems weird that that's just how it is. That one has a nice clip where, you know, it was meant to be placed, which I like. It's part of the battery tray. But I don't, I guess they didn't care. I don't know. I might have to put a zip tie on it, something crude, because it's kind of stupid to me. Well, anyway, actually it does kind of look like I need some bushings looking at that one. It's a little cracked looking. I mean, other than it being cracked though, it seems to work. I'd hate to just do it because why not? Now these guys, these are the bushings that I was going to replace. Anyway. Welcome back. This will be hopefully the final segment to this video. There she is. I put her in the shed. I'll bring her out and we can take a ride and see in my backyard. I haven't put a windshield or a rear view mirror on it yet, but it's good enough. I'm gonna unplug the charger. Speaking of charger, got this nice charger hooked up with the right plug. We put it down, I don't know, right about there for now. All right, got a few engines up there. Let's see what it charged to. First time I'm seeing it too. 50.2-ish. All right, let's go. Backing out, backing out. Whew, tight fit. All right, let's turn off the buzzer now. Can get annoying. Well, it's not slow. Alright, let's try that again. Here we go! You know how I know they're working? See those skid tracks? That's the brakes engaged. So, let's go out into the street real fast. I'm not going to have any speed metrics on this because I don't have a gauge cluster. Maybe I can get something on my phone that shows it on screen, but not right now. Alright. It's also winter, so it's kind of cold. Today's an odd day. It's like 55 or 56. This is also my first ride with the tires that are correctly in the back now. I know the fronts need air because I can feel the flat spot. There you go. Brakes work. Let's go down this way. Eyes are tearing up, even with my glasses on. Alright, turn her around. Pull over to the side real fast. Since there's cars coming. And, yeah, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Now that the cars are gone. Well, I'm going to go back out in my backyard, give you a show of what it looks like. It didn't really change much, but we'll park over the dirt spot, because why not? Alright, so, there it is. Needs a windshield, needs a rearview mirror, but those are it. If I ever find one, I'll want a plastic front cowl because they accept lights, and I would like lights at some point. The tires that I was telling you are flat, that I could feel them, they are flat. Look, I can push them with my foot. This one for sure. Like it's got a, you see that. So anyway, that's it. Remember what it looked like at the beginning? This is what it looks like now after taking it out for a little ride. You see those back tires, how wide it is now? They provide extra grip, which is really nice if you're doing any sort of yard work with this thing. Tell me what you think. Like and subscribe.